You're running too slow on your easy days and too fast on your hard days, and that's the whole reason your 5K is stuck. Say that back to yourself. Because if you're anything like every runner I've coached, you're doing the exact opposite of what actually works, and nobody ever told you because just run more sounds like advice and it's actually a trap. Let's start with the part that's going to annoy you. You go out Monday hard because you feel guilty about skipping Sunday. Tuesday, you call recovery, except your recovery pace and your race pace are separated by maybe 40 seconds a mile. Wednesday, you do a tempo run that's really just Tuesday with a different name. Every single run blurs into the same gray, medium-hard effort, week after week, month after month. And then you stand at the starting line wondering why sub-20 still feels like some mythical barrier reserved for people with better genetics than you. It's not genetics, it's math. And it's a math problem you've been solving wrong. Here's the reality check, and I want you to actually absorb this one because it's not opinion. Steven Seiler, exercise physiologist, spent years studying what elite endurance athletes actually do in training. Not what they say in interviews, not what looks good on Strava, what they physically log. And the pattern he found across sport after sport, rowing, cycling, distance running, was almost eerily consistent. Roughly 80% of training volume happens at genuinely easy effort. Not easy for me. Actually easy, conversational, almost embarrassingly slow, the kind of slow that makes you want to apologize to people who see you running. And the other 20% sits at real intensity, the kind that actually hurts, that makes your legs burn and your breathing ragged. There's almost nothing in between. No comfortable middle zone where most recreational runners live their entire running lives. And that's the problem. Because that middle zone feels productive. It feels like discipline. It feels like you're doing something. But physiologically, it's mostly wasted. You're not going slow enough to build the aerobic engine that lets you sustain pace for 18 plus minutes. And you're not going hard enough to actually push your top-end speed or your lactate tolerance. You're just tired. Chronically, quietly tired, with nothing to show for it. Let me hit you with a number because vague statements don't change behavior. Numbers do. Sub-20 for a 5K means holding roughly 6:26 per mile pace for over 18 straight minutes. 18 minutes doesn't sound long until you try holding that specific pace without a single second of rest. That's not a sprint dressed up as a race. That's an aerobic endurance problem wearing a speed costume. Your VO2 max, your lactate threshold, basically the exact intensity where your body stops clearing metabolic waste as fast as you're producing it. Your running economy, literally how much oxygen you burn to maintain a given pace. Those three things are what cap your ceiling, not raw willpower, not how many push-ups you can do. And here's the twist. You build almost all of that engine on the easy days. The exact days you're currently running way too fast to get any real benefit from. Quick question, and be honest with yourself here. When's the last time you finished an easy run and it actually felt easy the whole way through? Not the first mile, the whole run. If you're pausing to think about it, that pause is the answer. There's a second piece of research worth knowing because it explains why so many runners plateau at almost the exact same spot, right around that 20-21 minute mark. Researchers looking at recreational versus trained runners found that recreational athletes typically train at intensities too close together, day after day, which blunts the specific adaptations that come from true polarization, going properly easy on easy days and properly hard on hard days. In plain English, if every run feels roughly the same effort, your body has no clear signal to adapt in either direction. It just learns to survive moderate stress forever. That's the plateau. That's why you've been running the same 5K time for a year and telling yourself you just need to want it more. You don't need to want it more. You need to structure it differently. So here's what you actually do, and I'm going to walk through this like I'm standing next to you on the road, because vague advice doesn't fix a stuck 5K. First, and I promise this is going to sound almost insultingly simple, slow your easy runs down until it's uncomfortable how slow they are. I mean it. Run with a friend, and if you can't hold a full conversation without gasping between sentences, you're going too fast. Full stop. That's not folk wisdom. That's the talk test. And coaches use it instead of some overcomplicated formula because it strips your ego right out of the equation. Your true easy pace might sit a full 2 minutes slower per mile than your 5K pace. That gap should feel almost wrong when you're standing at your front door about to head out. Good. That means you're finally doing it right. Second, when you go hard, go actually hard. Not medium hard, not I'll push it a little hard. Real intervals at or faster than your current 5K pace with full recovery in between. Something like 6 to 8 reps of 400 meters. Run faster than you think you're capable of holding, then walk or jog the rest. Genuinely rest until your legs feel ready to go again. Not 20 seconds because you're impatient and want to feel busy. That recovery window is doing real physiological work. It's letting your body actually absorb that top-end stress instead of just barely surviving it and calling it a workout. Third, and this is the one almost everyone skips, you need at least one run per week that's longer than feels necessary for a race this short. I know, 5K sounds short enough that endurance shouldn't matter much. It matters more than almost anything else on this list. A bigger aerobic base pushes your threshold pace, the fastest pace you can hold before things go sideways, closer and closer to your actual max effort. That's the real difference between a 21-minute 5K runner and an 18-minute one. It's not raw speed, it's threshold. It's how close your comfortably hard pace sits to your all-out pace. Build that gap smaller, and suddenly sub-20 stops feeling like a ceiling and starts feeling like a Tuesday. Now here's the part that's going to sting a little, so brace yourself. This isn't about grinding harder. Grinding harder is what got you stuck in the first place. It's about having the discipline to go slower than your pride wants to go, so that when it's actually time to suffer, on those interval days, on race day, your body has the fuel and the recovery capacity to do it. Most runners can't manage that. Not because it's physically difficult, because it's psychologically uncomfortable to run slow in public. Past your neighbor's house, past that guy who always passes you, past your own Strava followers. You'd rather run a pace that looks respectable on paper than a pace that actually rebuilds you into someone faster 6 weeks from now. Here's your aha moment, and I want you to actually sit with this before your next run. Not just nod along and forget it in 10 minutes. Tomorrow, whatever pace you had planned, cut it by 30 seconds per mile slower than you think it should be. Just that one run. Notice the guilt creeping in around minute 10, telling you you're wasting your time, that this doesn't count as real training. That guilt is lying to you. That slow, almost boring run is doing more for your sub-20 goal than 3 medium effort runs stacked together ever could. And one more thing before we move on, because this trips people up constantly. Don't try to fix everything at once. Don't suddenly slow every run down and add intervals and add a long run in the same week if you're coming from that gray medium effort routine. Shift gradually over 3 or 4 weeks. Your body adapts to structure, not to chaos. And jumping straight into a perfectly polarized week after months of medium effort running is a fast track to an injury, not a fast 5K. So pace, structure, that 80-20 split, that's the foundation. That's what actually moves your 5K number. But there's a technique piece almost nobody talks about. And it's not about how far or how hard you run. It's about how efficiently your body converts every single ounce of that effort into forward speed. Two runners can have identical fitness, identical VO2 max, and finish minutes apart, purely because one of them is leaking energy with every single stride. That's next episode. This one running technique could genuinely change your 10K pace, and it's not some coach's pet theory. It's actually been proven. If this one hit different, do me a favor. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it, drop a like, and tell me in the comments exactly where you're watching from. I read every single one. Share this with the runner in your life who's been stuck at the same pace for a year and keeps blaming genetics instead of structure. And if you want the full training breakdown, the actual interval workouts, the pacing charts, direct access to me, membership links pinned right there in the comments. See you in the next one.